Hello and welcome to the Pursuit of Truth. A bit of change of tack today. No more Israel-Palestine talk. Luckily there's been a ceasefire. I'm sure they're not going to solve any of the problems, and the same problems that have been going on will continue as they fight over a piece of land that none of them will outlive. But I guess because there's consequences religiously of who owns those bits of areas, and their pride gets in the way of that. Unfortunately not seeing the bigger picture that God probably would rather they share it rather than fight over it and die over it. But anyway, I'm not going to talk about that. What I'm talking about now is these things I heard on Sky News, two of them about medical issues that I've mentioned in the past. And I know I'm not trying to use confirmation bias in citing two examples and then suggesting that means the whole medical industry is corrupt, or big pharma and pharmacies. That what I'm trying to show is that how important it is for us to, as Fox Mulder would say, trust no one. I mean, there has to be an element of trust, because it would be a terrible life without trust. But the problem is when you have medical things, especially when it's connected to money, it is such a murky area and a possibility for corruption or falsehoods. Now, I'm not trying to say that there's anything wrong with medicine or in general. What I'm trying to show is that we have to be alert, and that we should always research things. I do that all the time whenever there's anything to do with me or my wife or my children. And these days, there's no excuse for it, because Google, YouTube, they have everything. And yeah, there is a lot of stuff that's rubbish, and you have to sort of sift through it and try and find matching things to try and work things out. But it helps you to be able to have questions, so that when you see your doctor or GP, you have a little bit of knowledge, and you should take care over these things. You shouldn't just put your body in their hands and just think, well, they know best and they're not going to do anything wrong, because we've seen many examples of cases, and these are other cases that prove that that's not always a good idea. It's always best to be, God gave you wisdom, and anyway, even if you don't believe in God, you have wisdom, you have the capacity to look up things. And especially, it's not like you have to go to the library like in the old days. You can get it on your phone now, not even a computer, you're on your phone. Everyone has that. Most people have that kind of access, especially in the Western world. So yeah, you should always research things, and so that you can ask questions, and then they will think, oh, okay, I have to answer this and I have to do that. But the one thing I noticed with this first thing that is to do with fertility, the thing that I was screaming at the TV is she's trying to show something that's happening, an issue that's starting to occur because of new practices and because of COVID. But the one thing she doesn't say is how is a lay person, meant to know when, I don't know if did it stop recording then? How a lay person is meant to know when something is up. What do you, other than researching yourself, and this is all to do with dosages of fertility treatment that they're giving too much. How would you know what is the right amount? Because I'm sure it doesn't actually detail that online, those specific medications and how much you're meant to take. So it's a difficult question. The problem is if they're saying there's money involved in this, then how do you expect to ask the doctor to tell you the truth if he's purposely getting money out of this? Anyway, here's the thing that was on Sky News. You can hear for yourself and make your own judgment.
Okay. Our campaigners are warning that women getting help with fertility issues are being persuaded to accept a more aggressive pace of treatment. They fear delays caused by the lockdown will lead to some opting up to speed up their medication to try and, they hope, improve fertility. Well, let's talk to fertility coach and campaigner Lauren Jacobs, who joins us now. It's good to see you this morning. Look, you can absolutely understand why people would want to go for a more aggressive treatment. Why is it not always a sensible thing to do?
The problem is that there's quite a fine balance to be struck between giving enough medication to stimulate the ovaries enough to create a sufficient quality of eggs for IVF to be a success. Unfortunately, giving too much medication can lead to a situation called ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome, which can lead to very severe health risks, including blood clots, kidney failure, pregnancy loss, and in the worst case scenarios, actually, it can be fatal.
Right. So if I mean, clearly very serious potential side effects. So how are people getting hold of this sort of over medication then? If it's not a sensible thing to do.
Well, the patients don't get hold of it other than going through a fertility clinic, and we have some very great quality clinics in this country, and treatment in the UK at the moment is currently very, very safe. We're concerned, though, at the SAFE campaign by a move to for clinics to take certain financial packages in-house, which we feel may muddy the waters and sort of blend the boundaries between the health aspects and the financial aspects of care. And we feel that there may be a risk that there's some pressure brought to bear on some of the doctors, and also the women myself, that the couples may wish to rush through treatment because of the delays in the pandemic, and that these two factors coming together may result in greater risks.
Isn't this, though, I mean, one would imagine a highly regulated industry?
It is very, very well regulated currently. However, the regulations are 30 years old at the moment. So we are calling on the CMA and the HFEA to look at the regulations again, particularly in the light of these new moves to take the finances in-house.
I mean, you would expect, wouldn't you? As you say, money is a big driving factor. Yeah, we get that, but you would expect the clinicians involved to have health at the very top of their list, wouldn't you?
Yes, of course. And, the vast majority of doctors do have their, the welfare of their patients at the absolute forefront of their minds. And what we don't want is for those doctors to have pressure put on them from within the clinics that they work for, who are generally run for profit and quite often owned by private equity firms. And what we don't want is for the doctors to feel any undue pressure to be concerned about the finances. They should just be concerned about the health of their patients.
Yeah. Look, what would you say to couples watching this right now who are desperate for a child and it's like in a position where they feel they would just do anything to get that pregnancy? How do you address them directly to say, you've just got to slow this down a little bit?
Yeah, so what we would say is to be guided by your doctor. We do appreciate that it feels like a very, very desperate situation, but of course your health needs to come first, and also the health of any babies that you hopefully conceive. And there is a moderate way of being, of having adequate levels of stimulation without going over the top, where we can get a good success rate. So just bear health in mind.
Yeah, it's so difficult though, isn't it? Especially with the delay of the pandemic, which some people are gonna feel so set back by that.
Yeah, they are. There were delays, quite considerable closure time last year for clinics. There are still delays in some clinics, and time can very, very much be of the essence with fertility. And couples and women may feel very desperate that time may be running out, and will do almost anything to speed things up. And in fact, in our survey, 30% said that they were willing to push their physical and mental health to the limit if it helps their chances of getting pregnant.
Yeah, okay, but not a sensible thing to do, according to you, and understandable why you have that view. Lauren, good to talk to you. Thank you. Safety first is the...
Right, so there you go. So that's the problem, you see, and that's why I always say money should be taken out of medicine. And I know it never will be because they're making so much money out of it. But this is just one example. I mean, how many other issues when it comes to hospitals, when it comes to doctors, and we all know that certain treatments, in different countries because they have more money. You hear about this when children get sick and they want to fly them to America or fly them to somewhere else. So money plays a factor in the sense that it can be a minusing factor, i.e. like we can't afford this treatment, we can't afford these new cancer drugs, they're too expensive, so we'll have these other ones, but these other ones aren't as good. Wait a minute, but we're all human beings, yeah? You're willing to let people die, let people not live based on the fact of money, a piece of paper from a tree. Let's just remember we're playing a game. What about if this game is harmful? Well, it is, because people will die because they can't afford these treatments, or they can't afford some kind of laser surgery that is done, can't afford the equipment. And imagine now we're talking about the West, where we have the luxury, there may be differences between the UK, Germany and America, say, but imagine in the poorer parts of the world that aren't actually poorer, but are made poorer by the systems that we've all joined, that are the system of money, basically, isn't it? That's the one that, no matter where you go, unless you're a tribe, that is the one thing that unites us all. It's amazing, really, if you think about it, that we've come from a place, if it's to be believed, that we were cavemen and we had nothing, and we had hardly any clothes, and we used spears to kill, I was going to say dinosaurs, to kill animals. And now we've all agreed that we're all going to use money. Money as a means to leveraging human beings and their capacity to life, their capacity to objects. Objects that, and remember, everything that we've been given, whether you believe in God or not, is free. No baby had to manufacture the planet that they live upon, or the items that are within it. Yes, we have to have, we've made TVs, we've made, structures and things like that. But all the substance around us, we haven't had to make it, is there for us in abundance. But we're willing to play these games where people are going to suffer or die because of pieces of paper. I mean, it just seems ludicrous. So now we're going to move on to this other story that this is actually yesterday. The other one was a few days ago. This one is about I think I mentioned this before, the breast implants that were given that had some toxic substance in them, and this is a court case that's been going on. I think it's in France, because I usually mention this one with the Northern Ireland blood, where it was in the 70s or 80s. They took blood from America that some of it had HIV blood in it, because in those in America, or I don't know. I don't know if they used to check or not, but I believe that they didn't. They knew it wasn't good enough for Americans, so they were selling it. And unfortunately, Ireland bought it and they put it into children where they needed transfusions, and then they've ended up catching HIV, AIDS, and dying. I remember I covered that previously. I may have misinterpreted some of that, but you can look it up. And then, of course, also the I can't remember the other one I always mention. But anyway, yes, I know these are just a few examples, and you could say that, this is confirmation bias, or, this shows that the system is working, because there's only a few that I can name. But remember, I don't know much about medicine. I'm sure there's loads of people that know more about these things that are happening. And also, all of these stories, they take years of people fighting the system to try and get the truth out. That's the thing, you see. It's not like, on TV, like Your Honour or some television program where, within 6 episodes, justice is given. These things, that, especially with medical things, they fight for decades. People die fighting, never having the truth. These companies and governments keep these things and don't want to have the truth come, because they have to pay often, or they will lose their businesses or lose their respect. I don't know why. If you're told that you've been poisoning people, why you don't just admit it? Obviously, because no one wants to admit it. So they spend lawyers and courts and decades going through these things. And we pretend that we're a species that values truth above all. But when it comes to money, this is the problem again. You see, it's money and business and commerce. When it comes to these things, truth goes out the window. That's the first casualty. And then it's humanity. Anyway, let me play this clip for you.
A French court has said that thousands of women who receive defective breast implants should receive compensation. 2,700 women said that they suffered long-term physical and mental health problems after receiving the implants that were filled with industrial-grade silicone, which was not cleared for human use. Well, I'm joined by Jan Spivey, who was one of the women to receive PIP implants after she had a mastectomy due to breast cancer. She's also co-founder of the PIP Action Campaign, which initiated the claim on behalf of all victims in France against the German regulator. Well, lovely to talk to you today. Just tell us a little bit briefly about what happened to you.
In my case, I received a diagnosis for breast cancer, and I was offered a reconstructive surgery, and during that surgery I had PIP implants. I knew fairly soon after my surgeries, when I wasn't recovering, when I wasn't making a full recovery, and when I was struggling with a lot of symptoms, that I did have problems, but they weren't associated for many years with my implants. And it wasn't until 2011, when I was actually at the Royal Marsden Hospital having a pain management treatment for the many significant symptoms that I was experiencing, that I probably, when I heard the news, I thought I probably had PIP, and it was later confirmed in a letter from my hospital.
So just remind us how many years you'd been suffering with the pain from these.
Well, I had the breast implants in 2002, and my problems really started around 2003. When I had my PIP implants removed in 2013, I sent them to Milan University for analysis, and it was discovered that my implants didn't have an anti-bleed barrier, which means that from the moment that they were implanted into my body, they were seeping silicone. And because I'd had my lymph nodes removed from my axilla, from underneath my arm, the silicone was migrating all around my body. And it is the same for all other women that have had PIP, and not just women in the UK, but women all around the world that have been experiencing similar kind of a wide range of very debilitating symptoms.
What was your reaction when you found out that the silicone that they'd put in you was industrial grade?
Well, you know, industrial grade is like it doesn't mean anything. What actually is the case is that an individual with no previous experience was using a cocktail of silicone ingredients. He had no chemistry training or no chemical training, and he put them together using unknown manufacturing processes, unknown raw materials. And I knew, you know, from the symptoms that I was experiencing, I was exceedingly sick from whatever was put inside me, and regrettably things didn't improve when I had the implants removed. So I'm now starting to suspect that the damage that I've sustained along with others is actually permanent. And I think it's important to mention here that women with PIP around the world have died, and many women have been diagnosed with a cancer which is now directly linked to the silicone in breast implants of whatever type.
How's that added to the trauma that you were inevitably already going through after having breast cancer?
The truth is, I'm rather surprised even now when I'm speaking to you that I haven't dissolved into floods of tears. In my last operation, I had an operation to remove the capsules that had formed around the PIP implants and that were completely impregnated with the silicones that were leaking from the implants. During that surgery, I suffered a massive hematoma, internal bleeding. I had to have a second emergency surgery. I had 4 blood transfusions, followed by a pulmonary embolism. And I really have not recovered from all of that. I've been left mutilated. I'm totally disfigured. And, you know, I might even start to cry now, but that's how it's affected me and many other women who've had PIP implants. I'm not unusual in this respect. I've had 8 PIP-related surgeries, and you know, I really don't know what's in store for me for the future.
Well, Jan, really grateful for you sharing your story and talking to us today, and also for all the work that you've done fighting for all those other women who've been affected in the same way that you have. And well done on the news today. Thank you.
Much indeed. We're delighted.
There you go. I mean, that's just testament. Now, what I don't know is they didn't explain nicely is whoever did because it made it sound like the person who did the cocktail of silicone was some kind of backstreet doctor, or but I'm assuming she was talking from South London with a British accent, even though it was in court in France. I assume that's the silicone or the breast manufacturers, but I don't know who they were. But I'm assuming it was a reputable pharmaceutical manufacturer of medical products. I assume it's not the hospital that made these things, but they purchased them and used them. But it just goes to show that, this is... How is it possible that someone with no training could mix things and not and make this kind of mistake that has affected so many women around the world who... as some may have these things due to wanting changes to their body. Some may have them because of, like this lady, because of cancer and because they have to have a mastectomy. Imagine you go through that kind of suffering and then you have something that may have been even worse than the disease that you've survived. And yet the person doing it, the company doing it, must be, regulated, must have guidelines and health and safety and all that kind of thing at the highest standard. You'd expect any pharmaceutical company, any hospital, any manufacturer of hospital products would have to have the highest level. And yet look what happened. And I wonder, back at the beginning when she probably said, is it because of these breast implants? They probably say, oh no, it can't be. We're highly regulated. These things don't happen. And now look what's happening. It just shows you the importance of this. I'm not saying that medicine doesn't work. There's a lot of people that wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for medicine. That's why I find it very difficult when you get truthers or whatever, talking about the issue of medicine, because I don't know which things. Yes, I know you're putting a toxin in your body, but some of these things have saved people's lives and keep people alive. We have testament of that. But there are cases like this where, is it because of money? Is it because of lack of experience? It seems difficult to find that one. Did the people really know? But were they aware that they were cutting corners for money? Or I mean, they didn't really go into that, so I guess I'm speculating. But the importance of all of this is whenever you are by a doctor or a hospital or a GP or having some medical procedure, the importance is, just because they wear a white coat, just because they say, no, this can't be because of this, that doesn't mean that. We've seen that many times. Lots of things can happen, and there's lots of lying that goes on with these medical things. And no, it can't possibly be that. It's something else. Move along. Nothing to see here. The importance is that it's your body, and you have to make sure that you take care of it and find out as much as you can and research things and ask questions, and don't be afraid. And fight if something goes wrong. Take care, take it easy, God bless, and peace.